Oh, dear goodness. A rough night in Raleigh. Not like it was the first, but it was absolutely the strangest friggin' football game I've ever seen in my life. Mark Salva, Jerry Kutz, first impressions. Mark, have you ever seen anything like that?
To quote the great Buddy Pugh, I coached with Buddy at South Carolina, and he was the head coach of South Carolina State for many years, just retired. One time he looked at me after a particularly trying practice, and he goes, Mark, I've been to 2 or 3 county fairs, a bait fight, a goat effing, and I've never seen shit like that in my life.
Oh, God. Mark.
This is as raw as it gets, by the way. Jerry and I have not talked, and we just came straight on. So you're getting it raw, people.
This is going to be raw. And there was a series there. Florida State had hung in the game. 3rd and 6, we got good pressure. I think it was 3rd and 6. Got good pressure. C.J. Bailey tries to throw it, and our guy 3 has it in his hands. Joseph, interception, and he can't come down with it. So they punt it.
Yep.
He shanks the punt.
Yep.
Everybody's screaming, scramble, get away from it, and it hits our guy 24 right in the head and bounces right back to the kicker at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
If it had bounced any other direction, 24 might scoop it and score.
He can't advance it. But the thing is, it's just, what do you do? It's.
And then you stop them, they punt, and Squirrel, who had been dependable the whole game, mishandles that. I've never seen
that was a total choke job.
I said to Bob Ferrante, I've been watching the game of football really my whole life, and I have never seen anything like that. And he says, and you never will.
Right.
That was a series of a few plays.
Well, look, the bottom line is, this is, I don't know how many games, the pick, I think of the pick game. Virginia is probably better. Games that we should win, I feel like we were the better team. Of course, the scoreboard doesn't show it, but we outgained them by a ton. We moved the ball up and down the field, and we do the stupidest thing. We do things bad football teams do, and that's the bottom line. You make your own luck. A play like that in a game where we score, we make the field goals. Tommy doesn't throw the ball jumping in the air to overthrow a wide open guy on the first drive. If he doesn't makes a couple late throws to guys that are wide open running down the field, there's a slew of things there that if those plays hit like they're designed, then that play and the punt doesn't matter.
Right.
It shouldn't have mattered. It was late in the game. We should have been up by 2-3 scores, honestly. And they scored their touchdown, not the last one, but the previous, the first one up until that last one. They do a double move, and the guy throws it perfectly on time. And our guys bite like crazy. We did some double moves, and we get a late throw, and the guy catches back up, and knocks the ball down or makes a play on the ball, and he has to make a miracle catch. And so it's bad football teams. That's what happens. And then, first and goal, and we cracked the red zone. We're inside the 20, around the 15, and get 2 penalties in a row.
Yeah.
Getting offsides I forgot. Illegal formation, offsides, right? So we don't get the first down, and then we roll the kicker out there, and we ice our own kicker because we get a delay game penalty. That's ridiculous.
Right.
And so it's stuff like that bad football teams do. And look, we're not good enough to make mistakes like that and win a game on the road, especially in Raleigh. Raleigh's always been bad, and then you throw the Friday night thing in there and all that voodoo, right? And so I'm like, and I just look at the people that were with me. I'm just like, we're just not a very good football team. We're just not, and it pains me to say that, but that's the truth of the matter. But the thing is, we're not the most talented, but we got talent, and you got to maximize the talent, and you got to play up to your ability, and you didn't do any of that, and
No,
that's the bottom line. Look, the defense played good enough for most of the game. This is a lot of it is on the offense, but I'll say this: this is the one that kind of frosted me a little bit. They line up to punt the ball on fourth and six, whatever it was, and then they line up in a formation in an offensive formation. They shift into an offensive formation, and correct me if I'm wrong. Was the guy that handled the ball, was he a quarterback? I don't think he was. Right?
right.
He's not a
I don't know.
quarterback.
No.
I don't think he was. All right. I'll have to go back and look. But if he's not a quarterback, he's not going to throw the ball, people. Why are we lined up? Why are we playing the pass?
Yeah.
Why, the reaction on that play, it should have been go get the ball. Everybody.
Right.
Hit your gap and attack your gap, and we're kind of catching. I mean, it was just line up in a goal line front. I mean, see, we weren't prepared for that situation. We were not prepared for that.
Right.
I think they probably just said, well, we'll play base defense. That should be good enough. No, if the guy's not a quarterback, why are you doing that?
Well, and he was like 5 for 5 on that coming into the game or something, some crazy number.
What's that, on fake punts?
No. Yeah, 10 when they bring 10 in on the quarterback. It takes
the Wildcat stuff.
Yeah, and we didn't have an answer for that either.
So and then here's the other thing. So they hit on something on the short yardages. I'm getting on the defense a little bit here. I probably shouldn't, but on the short yardages, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, they ran quarterback lead. They started doing it about second half of the first quarter, maybe the first part of the second quarter. They did quarterback lead on every 3rd and short, and then twice on the goal line. And I mean, minimal resistance. I mean, I think after the 3rd time, I think I know what's coming, right? I mean, I'm not an idiot. And follow the back. It's a quarterback lead. Okay. Just I wrote it. I said our football IQ is not very high, and that goes to being a ball player, just having instincts, that kind of thing. It's just not very high. I mean, I got pages of notes here. I'm just like, I thought the OL played pretty decent. The pass protection was pretty good.
Yeah.
Tommy had all day to throw the ball.
And I thought he stayed in the pocket a little better.
He did, but he panicked. He doesn't set his feet. He doesn't. And I know he's short. And he can't see over the offensive line. And that's part of the problem. But that interception on the first drive, that was awful. That was. I mean, why is he jumping in the air to throw the ball? I mean, set your feet, deliver the ball, man. I mean, and again, my look, he gives great effort. I have no problem with his effort, with his heart, and all that stuff, right? But he has a flaw where when things break down or he feels the pressure, he starts playing street ball. He starts running around, and it's like there's no fundamental. I mean, do they even do scramble drill? I don't know. I mean, it's very hectic. It's not measured. It's not. It's like he's running around back there just playing flag football, and so and that's the limitation that we have with him, and it is what that is. But at times we ran the ball okay, but not converting on those when we don't, we're running up and down the field, and then something blows up, throw the pick, miss the field goal. And I guess that was the half, right? And then go back out there, and then we cross the 20, have 3 penalties. Try to hit on a couple of big plays and didn't, missed them. Danzy had one in his hands. He didn't catch it. Again, a late throw, a couple double moves to Deuce. late throws. The guy catches back up. One guy, the one where the guy fell down and caught back up. I mean, and he's scrambling to his left. I mean, it's just it's that much, right? It's always that much, and it's just so frustrating, for the offense to go
Well,
there.
on those two big plays you talked about, the one to Dancy and the one to Deuce, the first two, if he leads them a little bit, I mean, they're touchdowns.
Yeah.
And he's late throwing it. It's a little bit behind him. They have to come. Well, I think Deuce had to come back. Dancy just allow the guy to catch up, but they're not even 50-50 balls because the DB's got his back to the quarterback and the receivers have their eyes on the ball.
Yeah.
The receivers should have caught those balls, even though they were not good throws.
Well, the thing is, the one they did, they executed it perfect. I mean, on that slant and go, or it was a stop and go. I don't know, but I mean, the quarterback went back there, set his feet, and he gave the little shoulder pump fake, and then immediately threw it. The timing was perfect on it, and so that's the difference in the game. They hit it, we didn't.
Right.
And I mean, is that coaching? Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Is that the limit of our players? Maybe a little bit too, but it's just the details, man. The details are what get us beat, and the details start stacking up.
Right.
On their own, it's a little thing, but man, a lot of little things start stacking up, and you get a bad deal,
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just frustrating, man. It's just disheartening, I just, again, third quarter. I think every game this year, just about in the third quarter, the defense gives up a long drive, doesn't get off the field on third downs, and a fourth down conversion in this case keeps the drive going, and they end up getting something out of it, and it's like, I'm like, I looked at the goal. I'm watching that goal line series, where they score their second touchdown.
Yeah.
And I mean, a quarterback lead twice, and the one they finally scored on, I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Herring, but just the way they took on the block, going up in the hole, it was just so soft. We were talking last night, with our group about Marvin Jones and Derek Brooks and those guys, man, on the goal line. Those guys, if anybody stepped past the line, those guys were getting their heads taken off, right? And the physical. I mean, I know Mickey always talked about goal line attitude, and it was a thing, man. Goal line, and of course we practiced that. We practiced, full speed goal line on Tuesdays, and it was offense versus defense. It was ones against ones, and it was put the ball on the 3 and put the ball on the 1 and keep them out. And defense took great pride in that, and it was everything you could do to try to score. And we weren't allowed to throw the ball. It was knock one. Somebody's going to knock somebody off the ball, and so that was an attitude that was forged. I don't feel like that's. I guess you can't practice like that anymore. It's against the rules, I guess. I don't know, but that was disheartening to me.
Yeah, you all had consequences too. I mean, the team that.
Oh yeah, because if the offense, if we scored, then we didn't have to do gassers. If we didn't score, we had to do gassers after practice. I mean, so yeah, there was consequences. But that's the detail thing. That's a culture. That's the toughness that was forged in practice. We're just not a very physical football team. As much as we run the ball and stuff, I just don't feel like we're just a very physical football team on either side of the ball. I mean, we got big guys and we got guys that, but I just don't feel that ability to just beat up a team. Occasionally I like to see, just get bloody,
Yeah. When they would bring 10 in and you knew that they're going to run right at you, they won the line of scrimmage. I didn't see our defensive front. We weren't getting any penetration. we're getting knocked back. Would you agree?
No, I thought it was kind of even on that side of it. I thought our defensive line did okay. It's our second level. I think our second level is really weak.
Right.
Our linebackers and or a little fly in there, but I mean, it's. I thought that was. I call that a draw. Maybe because I don't think they were very good up front either. In fact, I thought they were probably one of the poorer offensive lines we've played. Honestly, I don't think they ran the ball that great. I think they just hit on a couple of plays, and then they got into third and twos, in third and threes, and were able to squeeze it out. But we don't. We had a couple of tackles for loss. We had a couple sacks. So I mean, I didn't think their offensive line was that great. But here's the thing. At one point, it was 11-14, and we have a chance to get it done, and just a series of just bad plays, man. It's just
Yep.
it's winning's a habit, and so is losing.
Yep. Well, it's a tough place to play. There's no question about it. They're in a game of inches. We didn't get the inches. And we made enough. I mean, we had too many penalties, too many turnovers, didn't finish drives, all the things that like you say, bad teams do to lose.
Yeah.
And I thought the effort, they fought through the whole game, but it's like they're frantic.
Yeah.
It's like their hair's on fire.
I told Julie, I said, you feel upset's not the right word. It's more like just, resigned, I guess. But because, they're trying, they're playing hard. They are. And I believe they're doing as good as I think they're doing as good as they can. But they can't get out of their own way, right? And for the level of talent that we have and the kind of football team that we are, the profile in terms of our offense and defense, there's very little margin for error. Right. We have to play a certain way to win. We have to do certain things to win. And when we do great. I mean, Virginia Tech, I don't know that Wake, Alabama, I mean, when we do those things, we're pretty good. But we get away from it at all, and we start making mistakes. We have no plan B, and I think that's the problem. One of the problems with this football team is there is no plan B. We beat you one kind of way, and that's chunk plays on offense. It's run the ball okay. I mean, when's the last time we broke a big run like with the what's the running back we had a couple years ago? What's his name? He's on my fantasy football team. Benson, yeah. Well, Trey Benson would break, a 60-yard run every other game.
Right.
I don't think we had one of those at all. We don't have those kind of game breakers per se, but our chunk plays come on, reverse this with Danzy, or a deep ball to Deuce or Danzy. And those, maybe a Pittman something occasionally, but there's no big plays in the we grind in the running game to set up those chunk plays. So that's the one way, that's the one way we win. And if we don't pull off those chunk plays and those deep balls, have we? I'm trying to think. Have we methodically taken the ball down the field consistently? We've done it a few times, probably.
I think we have. I've seen some 12, and I think like take the Virginia Tech game the other night. We missed the first field goal on like a 12-play drive. Then we get the ball drive all the way down there, and by the time we score in the second drive, I think we had run 30 plays. They're two very long drives.
Yeah.
And there's been times where we've been consistent. I think, though, our statistics in the red zone have just become awful. By the way, look at what Greg Leonard has to say.
Greg, Buddha hit. What's up?
What's up? Well, we got someone here already trying to pick our next coach. Mark
No,
Stoops.
you don't want any part of that. I promise you. I know people in Kentucky.
I'd tell you, man, I'm going to say something about Mark. The first time I ever met him was at a coaching thing down in Miami. And he found out who I was and who I worked for. And he goes, "Oh, man, you're up there with Coach Bowden and all the dinosaurs." And it was very insulting, right? And we were having a couple of beers. And I thought, what an ass, what an asshat. And then when he took the job here, I thought, oh, God, I'm not going to want to work with him. And we had a golf tournament, the Tallahassee Seminole Club, and Mark had agreed to do it, and then found out that it was the coach's week off. And he called me, and I thought, sure, he was going to back out of it. But he drove all the way from Panama City Beach to make an 8 a.m. golf tournament in Tallahassee. And he wasn't going to have it any other way. He was going to be there. And he stayed the whole time. So I thought, that's a pretty good guy. Mark turned out, in my book, to be okay.
Okay.
But, so I tell a bad story about him and a good one.
Well,
anyway, we got some people calling in here. Okay, Greg's got inside joke for you, I guess.
Weller, he's talking about his bourbon. He's deep. How many bottles is that, Buddha? I got my Buffalo Trace over here. I'm gonna run to it here.
We got that's Pat Fitzgerald. Okay, here we go. Here's somebody that's I still support Norvell. I do too, but boy, tonight makes it hard on you. And I know it makes it hard on the administration, even the ones that really want to, support him. He needs a little help. I mean, they do.
And he needs to help his own case.
He had a chance tonight.
Yeah.
Mark, do you think
he's got one more chance?
Yeah, he beats Florida. That'd be something. Let's talk about that a little bit. What do you think? I know Florida's defense is pretty solid. They're kind of a helter-skelter team too, aren't they?
Well, you can bet you're going to get their best in Gainesville. Hopefully they get our best. I mean, that one's it can go either way. It's literally throw the records out. It doesn't matter because this for both teams. This game is going to make the season.
Yeah,
and it's going to be. It's going to be this might be one of the nastiest Florida State games in a long time. Because this is all either team has to play for right now.
Yeah.
And it's the only way we can redeem our season. It's the only way they can go out, and make anything of a season that's been a disaster for them.
Well, you played in that game and you coached against Florida. How many times did you play in it and coach it?
Well, I played in 4, coached at Florida State for 4, and then South Carolina played them every year, 5 years. So in their heyday, basically, when I was at South Carolina, I was Spurrier's heyday, and of course, Spurrier's first go round in '90. I was coaching him then too. So, it's a different. It's different than Miami. It is different than Miami especially for the players, and I think it stems from the whole blue-blooded Florida thing. Miami is more like us. They were an independent. They've always had a little chip on their shoulder that just like we kind of do, and it's there was an element of respect among the players. in the Miami game. The Florida game is just different. We just didn't like each other. Period. There was no respect in the way that there was when we played Miami. At least from our side of it. I don't know how they feel. And I'm not even sure how Miami felt, but I can tell you from our perspective, in my era, anyways, it was always a little different. Those two games, just did not like Florida. Did not like going there. Did not like anything about it. So this one can get nasty for sure.
Yeah, you wonder what their team attitude is at Florida. But let me ask you this: the actual game itself in Gainesville, crowd's a big factor in that game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One of the louder places, just because of the nature of the stadium, it's kind of bold in and goes straight up, so the sound kind of hangs.
Very little sideline.
Yeah, really close to the sideline. It's it is a tough place to play for sure. You can get the crowd out of it too really quick.
See, that was the thing I thought. If you let NC State hang in that game like we did, that's a tough place. If we could have got ahead and stayed ahead, the crowd might have not been the factor. I'm sure it was.
Do you think the crowd was a factor?
It has been in the past.
Yeah, I know it has in the past. I didn't get that feeling that was an issue for maybe that was what contributed to it. I don't know, because they can be nasty. NC State's one of the nastier places that we go
to. No question about it.
Yeah,
I've had 2 fisticuffs down there. So I've seen it with my own face. At any rate, that we'll be there next Saturday. I just don't know. Our offenses, people have figured something out about our offense. It's if you contain Tommy. I'm not sure, Mark. What do you think it is? What our defense is?
Well, like I said, it's we have no plan B. We grind some runs. We don't have a lot of diversity in the running game. It's zone for the most part. There's not a lot of, I think one time I saw a little pin and pull thing, but it's zone runs 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, maybe break one for 12. Play action, deep ball, or RPO. I didn't see many screens this game. We didn't throw very many, and then take shots.
Yeah.
And then some razzle dazzle. The razzle dazzle tricky do's that Gus likes to do. Look, yardage wise, we gained a lot of yards, but our red zone efficiency is probably not very good. I don't have the stats, but it doesn't feel like it's very good. When we get bogged down, it's because we don't hit the chunk plays, or the quarterback is making mistakes or making bad throws. He should have had about 2 more picks this game on late throws. He threw that one out to Deuce was really late and almost got picked. There was another one that I remember. He kind of threw it late and almost got picked. There was a couple there. He should have had about 2 more picks. So, anyways,
we got somebody.
What is tangible coaching compared to elite coaching?
That's a great question.
Look, when I first got into coaching, Wayne McDuffie told me, "Good players make great coaches." Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If we're kind of limited in our especially the guy throwing the ball. All right, he plays hard. He does some things occasionally really well, but his consistency but he's not a pure passer by any stretch. So we got to do with him what we can. And if we had Jordan Travis back there, or we had a great passer, maybe we could do different things to take advantage of some of these weapons we have on the outside, for sure. In this tight end that we have, it's a pretty good tight end, right? But because of where we're limited with the guy throwing the ball, that's what we got. So it's really about the roster than more as much as it is about the coaching. Now, the mistakes, like of the I will say the details on some of the stuff. Yeah, I mean that's coaching too, for sure. Like I talked about on the fourth down. Understanding the situational awareness of what you got going on right there. They're not going to throw the ball in that situation. That guy's not going to throw the ball, right? So situational awareness. The icing your kicker on the field goal on that penalty. That was bad. But good players make great coaches, and that's also the coach's responsibility to build the roster.
Right.
But we're in a different time where it's not just about building relationships anymore. It's still a part of it, but you know what? Money talks, BS walks in this time, right? And so it's you kind of if you don't have the resources to get in the game with the big dogs and for the elite players, you're at a disadvantage. So you take what you can get. I'm grateful for the guys that come. I really am. They chose Florida State hopefully because they wanted to be here, not because we paid them the most out of anybody that's offering them. But I'm afraid that's probably the case for some of these guys, and that's just the reality of all teams in college football right now.
Right.
Because we don't. Well, the situation that we're in building, we got to be able to demonstrate that we can be an elite team and attract some elite players at a discount, and that's what you're going for, But when you're building, you have to pay a premium to get the great player. And how much, and now you got to build a whole roster. You got a limited pot of money. You got to build a whole roster, So it's a mix of coaching and talent, but you know what? Great players overcome bad coaching. And that's the other axiom that I was always told, good players overcome bad coaching. And so situations like we had tonight, if you have a great player in some of those spots, they don't amount to much. And I could think of, any number of times where, some guy makes a bonehead decision and ends up scoring a touchdown, Any number of times Terrell Buckley ran backwards to catch a punt and caught it and turned around and, went for a touchdown, throwing a ball up for grabs and also, making a great catch. There's all kinds of things that boneheaded things players do, but if they're a great player, they make a great play, how many times did Marvin Jones or Derek Brooks vacate their responsibility because they sniffed something out and made a great play? I could tell you, Wally Vernon probably tell you 50 times.
Exactly.
Right? He just didn't do what he was coached to do, but he saw something, felt something, knew something, smelt something, and went and made a play. And that's what great players do. They overcome bad coaching.
Yeah. Yep. Got somebody here commenting about it. It was an away game, and we're not very good on the road, and that's for certain. And that's a mystery to me. I think, I feel like we play tight on the road. It just something about the home field and the crowd around them. I think we play looser, but we definitely look, very, very tight to me again tonight. And if we could have gotten it going, maybe the team would have loosened up. But it just starts to mount against you as you get later in the game. And, of course, there at the end, it was.
Well, later in the season, too. They're obviously pressing a little bit. There's a lot of pressure. But, so what? That's part of competing. That's part of being, at Florida State. That's part of the expectations are what they are at Florida State. And You know, I know the narrative is what the narrative is, and you just got to put that stuff. You just got to play. You know, and I think that's part of also, you know, this new era where you're retooling your roster every year. You know, you don't know what you're getting year to year. You know, how do you build a team culture when your team changes every year? You
Yeah.
know, how do you instill certain ways of doing things, and you know, because when you rebuild your roster every year, you're bringing other people's bad habits and you're trying to teach them good habits. You
Right.
know, but everybody's got the same problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just us.
So I wanted to go back to what you're talking about earlier about NIL, on the question of coaching. Back in the old days, you'd build your roster, and for the most part, it was a little bit of a level playing field on trying to do it. Today, you can have some people really put their thumb on the scale with NIL. And now we're playing NC State tonight, and I doubt their NIL is any better than ours. I had somebody say that to me about Virginia as well. And then I found out Virginia had one donor invest $10 million in that team this year. And they got a bunch of players. So it's funny, but I say it's funny. It's a topic of discussion that I think our fans look at Stanford, NC State, Pitt, and I look at Virginia and don't think they got a $10 million donor, but they do. And so, and all of this stuff is not public record. You can look at, I know 247 does, and maybe On 3 too. They do an estimate of what the rosters are, but their formula for that estimate is based upon the brand value of the school. Well, we have a high brand value, so therefore they think we have an elite payroll, which I know we don't, right? So I think it makes it harder to evaluate your coaching because you don't know. We know Miami's got a big roster, payroll. But I would think that Florida State's would be competitive with several of the teams we're losing to.
Oh, no doubt. And that's where Mike is in trouble because, you got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat.
Right.
You got to beat Pitt at home.
Right.
You got to beat Stanford. You should beat NC State. That was not a very good football team we played.
No.
And
they're a football team that they play their best football statistically at home. And, they're Jekyll and Hyde. They're not good on the road either.
Yeah.
But, that's part of the deal. Interesting statement here on may as well start Brock against Florida. He may provide a spark. I got to be honest, going into the fourth quarter, Tommy was struggling, and that was a one-score game. And I wondered what it might look like to go to, I was thinking Sperry, because he's still got another game of eligibility that doesn't have to burn the red shirt here. Just to let Tommy watch it from the sidelines and to see, does Sperry give us a spark or get Tommy back in there? But, Mark, you've been in those situations. What's the thinking in an offensive staff room about doing something like that in the game now?
It all comes down to trust,
right?
And as only as a coach that works those guys every day, do you know how much work they got, how prepared they are, how dialed in they are, and you got to trust they know. Now, I don't know how they practice. I don't know how many reps those guys get a week. I don't know how they are in meetings in terms of, when they're going over stuff. I'm sure they do all kinds of walkthroughs and stuff like that. Are those guys tuned in? Only the coaches know that. So
Right.
you got to trust that if they trust me, I promise you, if Mike and Gus thought that they would give them the better chance to win, they put them in there. I promise you. Okay. They don't know Tommy anything other than how much money they're paying him. Right. It comes down that because they're playing for their jobs. If they
Right.
really thought that, they would put them in. So,
That's what I was weighing in my head. Now, you have a game plan you've prepared all week for NC State, and how they execute that game plan during the week is where the trust comes from, right?
Oh, yeah. And it's that, and the whole body of work for the whole season.
Right.
I mean, a great week of practice is not going to mean you're going to play that week.
Right.
Have you been consistently dialed in, been that guy, really pushed, kind of, biding your time? I mean, that's where the trust comes from. It's the whole body of work. And you said something about like saving a red shirt. Why would you save a red shirt in this day and time? Why would that be concerned?
Right.
Especially
when your job's on.
I would. Yeah. How many quarter? Brock's been here 3 years, right?
Yeah.
This is his third year. That's a record.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a kid we brought out of high school and have developed.
Yeah. Because where's the other the other Purdy? Chuba.
Oh yeah.
No, we had Chuba, Purdy. I mean, how many quarters have we had that have never haven't stuck around over the last 5-6 years?
Duffy.
Yeah.
Chroma.
Duffy. Yeah. I mean, the kid that went to Mississippi. What's his name?
Yes, Mississippi State.
Cromanhoek.
Cromanhoek. Okay, so a second-year Castellanos could work? ? I mean, I've asked that question this week, to myself and to friends. And Mark, I mean, can a guy? We saw the development of Travis, and there was a time when really smart football people thought he couldn't become who he became. Can Tommy look at what he's doing right and wrong and improve on it? If he gets,
I think the difference there is Jordan was a really young player when he got here. He still had 4 years? He was here 4 years, right?
I think so.
3 or 4.
Yeah,
I
19, 20. I think 4.
He's here 4 years.
Yeah.
So he was a raw talent who didn't have the bad habits and whatnot. Mike was able to groom him and essentially and build the offense around what he did and what he did well, and did a great job of it. I mean, there was a huge leap the 22 year.
Mm-hmm.
When I remember saying on this very podcast, saying, you know what, we need to just design more stuff around Jordan's strengths and go with it, and just design the offense around his strengths, because you could see the competitiveness that he had, you could see the talent that he had, but he was still a young developing player at that time. Tommy is a 5th-year player already, he is what he is. I don't know that there's any more. I mean, yeah, he can make some incremental improvement, but I don't think you're going to see any great leaps in his accuracy. I don't think you're going to see any great leap. He's not going to grow 3 inches. He's played 5 years of college football. His body is probably hurting, right? Because of the style of play. What's his tolerance for contact, and he's already had a concussion. So are you going to see any great leaps of improvement with him, year over year? Not like you did with Jordan. Not, he is what he is right now, in my opinion.
Well, I respect your opinion. Who could return next year is a really good question. And I was listening I went to the Tallahassee Quarterback Club last Tuesday, and Taylor Tannenbaum was the guest speaker. Mark, you would have enjoyed listening to Tanner. She's very impressive. I mean, she'd never done a speaking engagement like that. She said that's the first one she's ever done. She's always the person asking the questions and not the person being asked. But she gave a good accounting of herself. But at that same event, Derek Ray, who's the GM, in charge of personnel for Florida State, also spoke. I got the chance to spend a little one-on-one time with him. And he did a good job speaking. But to the question asked, if you take Tommy out of the equation, not passing yards, but receiving yards and rushing yards, we get 90% or more back next year if they can keep these players on the roster. Now, who knows? Some of them may transfer out. But, to answer your question, and it's it's not a very accurate assessment, 90%, 95%, because you're going to lose the whole offensive line and possibly the guy throwing the ball. But you do have a lot of skill returning next year that we did not have the previous year. Going from 23 to 24, we lost 10 NFL draft picks in those years. So even coming into this year, the talent that we brought back, most of it was coming through the portal. The 26th season could be a lot of proven talent this year. Guys like Dancy. I don't know about Deuce. I think Deuce will be drafted probably third round or higher. But if you can hang on to Chroma and some of the other, we got to see Boggs again. He's been out 7 weeks.
The
Sears, man, I'm telling you what.
Slippery.
There's Mandrell and the brother 90. He made some plays tonight. He made himself obvious a couple of times. So they do have some good young players coming back, which is encouraging.
Yeah.
Again, if you have a coaching change or, all bets are off. Those guys could, you may not
Scatter.
They could scatter. As my friend Mark Horowitz says here, Mark, you'll appreciate this comment.
Yep. That is a universal truth, my friend. It always is.
But you know what? It's FSU is an elite dynasty. There you go, brother. I love the way you're thinking. Going back to that X's and O's, though, I think one of the things about coaching, Mark, is if you look at on our coaching staff, you got a assistant coach like Patrick Surtain, and we wind up getting cornerbacks, and it's not by chance. I think that players want to come play for Surtain because he's putting guys in the NFL. And, if you have a coaching staff that has that kind of a resume, you're more likely to get the Johnnies and Joes, don't you think?
I feel like we got some decent running back coach is obviously a good recruiter. We got a great stable of running backs.
Yeah.
Just don't have that home run hitter, We got good solid backs. Let me say that. We got good solid backs. Herb hasn't had a chance yet really to recruit offensive linemen in other than the transfer portal that we got. And if that was him identifying talent and bringing it in, I thought he did a really good job. Offensive line has been one of my least concerns. And Rizzy played a ton today. I guess Richie Leonard's hurt.
Yeah, he was. He missed the game.
Yeah, and so, and the pass protection was early on. It's one of my notes. Like, man, they're not getting close. He was. I felt like we could have thrown if we had a pure pocket passer, we could have thrown the ball all night. They weren't getting close. They were stacking against the run a little bit, but that's been all year.
Right.
Yeah,
they're daring us. They're daring us to throw it.
Yeah, they are. So we got some good recruiters. But recruiting is such a different. Like we've already talked about it. It's just a different animal. Building your roster anymore.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk with Pettibone's brother and teammate from Wake Forest one evening, and the Herb Hand was part of the reason that Pettibone
Richie
came to play. Yeah, Richie, and so Herb definitely has a good.
He's got a great reputation.
Yeah,
for sure. Because he's got to rebuild this offensive line again. I don't know. The young guys aren't playing very much, if at all. They play some mop-up duty. It's just he's going to have to do it again. So it'll probably be a mixed transfer portal and maybe some young kids. We'll see.
So Mark Gregg's teeing you up with a great one. Why not play Sperry for at least one quarter or one series? When you were at Florida State, were we running that Kentucky Derby back then?
Yeah. Danny Cannell as a freshman and the second team offensive line and the whole second team offense would go out on the second series and run one play and then come off the field. That was one of Coach Bowden's light bulbs. He had this little light bulb one day. He comes in, he says, "I want to do this." And we're like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll just come in and run one play. We'll run," and they're going to practice that one play all week. And sure, that's what we did. Second series, one play. They ran 46 toss or 46 Z reverse. It was something like pretty simple, but just to get him in the game, and he called it the Kentucky Derby, But Buddha, it's like one of those things. It's the trust factor. He's not going to win you the game, but he dang sure could lose you the game if he makes a mistake. But it's if he's ready to play, if you start the week and say, look, you're going to get a series, and then prepare him for that series. Sure, why not? Get him in there, see what he can do. If he gets a hot hand, go in him. But, again, we're not at practice, and we don't know what they know in terms of, is he ready? Unless his hand's forced, which it may be. Time he gets hurt, then he's going to have to play. So he better be prepared. That's part of it too.
Yeah, that Kentucky Derby thing, though. I would imagine you coached them. Or were you were playing at that time?
No, I was good.
You watched them then at practice every day. If I knew I was going to play just one play, I'd probably be more attentive at practice that way.
I think that was part of it. That was part of the thinking for sure.
Yeah. You can get lost on the bench and the cobwebs can grow in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you never had to do that. You played as a freshman, so.
That's true.
Okay, who returns depends on which coaches are retained. It's a good point. I imagine there have been discussions in the event Mike is let go. I would suggest to you that if they let Mike go, unless there's somebody on the staff that they're going to make the head coach next year, all those coaches are going to go. Because whoever takes this job is going to want to bring his own staff in. Now, he may want to retain a Surtain or Herb Hand or whichever coaches that fit his, system. But Mark, don't you find that when there's a head coaching change, it's pretty much all the other coaches are scattering?
Yeah, for sure. the one exception, we had one exception when we went to South Carolina, and because when Sparky Woods got let go, it was obvious he was getting let go. All those coaches stopped recruiting except for one. One coach fulfilled his contract, and that's what he told Brad Scott, who took the job from FSU. He said, "South Carolina's paying me. I'm going to do my job." And he recruited and held together a recruiting class until we played the national championship game and got up to South Carolina. And Brad kept him, and that was Brad Lawing.
Yeah.
Brad Lawing stayed and recruited his tail off for the University of South Carolina, even though he knew he wasn't even guaranteed a job. So, that was the one exception that I know of personally that was different. But every other time, it's very rare that a coach gets retained, multiple staffs, unless it's somebody like an Odell, an institution, somebody like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think if I read on one of the sites some speculation that had they have let Mike go earlier in their year and had an interim coach, that it would have been an advantage to keeping these recruits. And I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever read, is if this coaching staff knows that Mike's not going to be here next year, the last thing, they're going to be looking for a job.
Well, yeah, they're going to be on the phone. Absolutely, they are.
And they got agents, so they're not actually going to be on the phone.
Yeah,
the agent's going to be on the phone. And the agent's going to say, "Hey."
I never had an agent.
Yeah. Yeah. But the agent's going to say to a prospective school, "Look, I can bring you so-and-so from Florida State," and he's going to bring these 3 recruits with him.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'll give you an example if you don't believe me. If anybody out there doubts this, look at Gus Malzahn. He brought the Desir twins. He brought Tommy, and he brought the center from Cocoa and Javon Boggs. They all came to Florida State following Malzahn and.
Well, you just said Richie came because of Herb.
Richie Leonard came because of her.
No, Rich Pettibone.
No, Rich Pettibone. Yeah. So, yeah, if you want to see the recruiting class scatter, make a coaching change. If you want to see the young players, if they're playing for a coach and they respect that coach, an assistant, and he goes to another school, they may very well follow. So I'm not saying that's a reason not to look at another coach. I'm just saying it's a good way to see your roster scatter nowadays, because anytime you fire a head coach, they're always free to go, but they certainly are free to go at that point. This question, I think we've talked about this quite a bit.
Yeah, I already made that point. Why would you care about a red shirt in this day and time?
Yeah.
Honestly. If he's ready to go, play him,
But Mark, here's the reason I think. I think the parents and the players' agent, 90% of our players have an agent now, if you can believe that. But I heard that from Derek Ray, 90% of them. So if that agent's saying, "We don't want to burn the year," that's head coaches are having to deal with that now too. So I'm not saying that's the issue with Sperry by any means, but to your point, you don't want to preserve the red shirt, but the kid might. I'm kind of depressed that Mike didn't try to get to Sperry ready and offer some hope for next year. We talked about that as well, and that was my thought going into that fourth quarter. Is I wonder if they were able to get Sperry ready, and do they trust him enough to put him into a one-score game? It's just, we've talked about that, and it's a wonderful question. Gosh, we're getting a lot of good questions, Mark. Okay, so that's the problem. You need to develop guys for next year when the season is over. I want to talk about this a little bit, Mark. I mean, I think it's important to get that bowl, and that sixth win gives you an extra 3 or 4 weeks to work with your players. What do you think about that?
Yeah, season's not over. In terms of winning the league and that kind of thing, yeah, it was over a long time ago as far as that goes. But going from 2 wins and maybe getting a bowl to 6, getting 6 and going to a bowl, as bad as it feels, it's improvement, right? As bad as it feels, because it could have been so much better. It should have been so much better, right? And like I said before, if they really believed that he was the answer, they would put him in the game. This isn't a thing. Coaches aren't. It isn't about loyalty to players and that kind of thing. It's about who gives us the best chance to win, and whatever that means to them. They see him every day. They're with him every day. They know what they got, and if that's what you got to believe. You got to believe that. I know if I was in that situation as a coach, I'm not playing a player because I like the guy better than this guy. I'm going to play the guy who gives me the best chance to win, period. And so I got to believe that's still the case.
I got a friend here, Artie Centurion. Artie was the AD at Coral Gables Youth Center for a long time. And one of the guys, when I grew up in Miami and played ball at Coral Gables Youth Center, and at that time, Ron Frazier, the baseball coach, got paid $25,000 by the city of Coral Gables, I think, to be the AD at the youth center. This is what I've been told. And then the University of Miami paid him like $25,000 to coach baseball back in those days. And I'm talking about the 60s. And so, at any rate, Artie, I think served in that role for about 20 years. And I was saying to Artie, one of the things they should do down there is the Coral Gables Youth Center. I don't know how many NFL players and professional baseball players went through the Coral Gables Youth Center, but that Hall of Fame would shock them. There were the Coral Gables put a lot of money into that youth center, and Artie did a really good job down there running it. So when Artie talks about Mike being the Dr. Pepper coach, he knows something about coaches.
Yeah.
He did not fall off the turnip truck yesterday.
Where's the hunt for the new coach begin? It begins and ends with Jimmy Sexton, brother.
It does. And I'll fill in on that a little bit more. Is I think that the people that will make that decision at Florida State is basically your athletic director, your president, and the board chairman, chair of the trustees, Peter Collins. And I've been writing this for a long time, in all my years of covering Florida State. I feel like we have good alignment from the chairman, the president, the AD, and the head coach. We've had good alignment. They've been in discussion, and I know some of you maybe don't want. Well, I think you want to hear this, but you may think I'm just trying to make it sound better than it is. But I have a lot of confidence in this alignment. I've seen Florida State, like when Mark was there, we had good alignment. Bernie Slager and the athletic director and Coach Bowden and Andy Miller, they all put football number one, and the big dogs ate. And if there was anything left over, the other sports got to eat. And we've had presidents that came in and the ADs that said, well, we're going to focus on basketball now, or we're going to focus on, we got to build a lot of facilities for women's soccer and softball. And so they start redirecting the money to other sports, and the head coach in football ain't happy with it. And, we're enjoying the benefits of those investments in soccer, softball today. But at the time, it wasn't well received by Coach Bowden or by Jimbo Fisher. And we were out of alignment. But I do think this program is in alignment. And whatever they're having discussions, this loss did not help Mike's case. I mean, I think Mike could have helped himself a lot, because the people that are making these decisions really like Mike. They like what he's been able to do with player development in terms of going to class and graduating and 3.1 GPA. They don't get in trouble. All those things are good and not to be taken for granted when you're making decisions like this. But you have to win. And I think 9 out of 10 fans, maybe 99 out of 100, at the end of the day, they care about academics and they care about good citizens, which Mike's done a really good job with that. But you got to win. Mark, you and I had this conversation, and Julie was your wife was in charge of academics there at South Carolina.
Yeah.
What did you tell me about what happened?
The year we got fired for winning 2 games, I think. We had the highest GPA in the Southeastern Conference, higher than Vanderbilt. And my wife was one of the academic counselors in charge of the football team and the basketball team, and so she had a lot of at-risk players. Anyways, did a great job of keeping them eligible and all that stuff, and had the highest GPA. It didn't mean, and it was something that we touted. We were very proud of that, and the fans were very proud of that, until we only won 2 games, and then it was like, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. I mean, it matters. Obviously, it matters, but in terms of your job security, it doesn't matter, because look, you get into this business. If you're a football coach, it's a results-oriented business. Mike knows where he is right now. Trust me, he's not stupid, and not near these coaches. They know what's at stake, and I promise you, they're doing everything in their power that they know how to do to get this thing right and to win football games. And so, to sit here and say that, they're doing anything else other than that it's kind of silly,
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, can they do a better job? Of course they can do a better job, and they know they can do a better job, but in the middle of the season, when everything's swirling around you, it's hard to stay focused, but you got to rely on the things that you put into place, and the plans and the systems and the way that you work, which has always been good enough, but right now it's not. Now's not the time to start trying to figure everything out and start trying a bunch of new things and just throwing things at the wall and see what sticks. Do what you do it better, correct the mistakes that you're making, but it's a tough spot to be in. Trust me, they know where they're at. And if Mike knows that he didn't help his case tonight, I promise you, all those coaches know that. They know. Look, when I was at South Carolina and we lost to Vanderbilt late in the year, we all knew, and we still had 1 or 2 more games left, but we knew at that point, we're like, boys, get your resumes ready. We're probably gone.
Mark, the players on that South Carolina roster that you recruited and developed relationships, do you think they knew and that it affected how they played?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No question.
I think that explains why this team plays as tight as it does.
Yeah.
I think that
if they, and I suspect that they do. In fact, I know they do, because they're playing hard. It's not that they're not playing hard. So that tells me they like their coaches. They like their staff. They like Mike. They like their coaches. They believe in them. I mean, everybody, that leaves the program loves Coach Norvell. They love the guy that he is, because he's consistent. He's there's not a lot of fluff to Mike, right? I mean, he's all about the work. He's all about the work ethic and integrity and all those good things, right? And the players respond to that. So they're playing hard, and that could be part of the deal, I guess. I don't, they're just really pressing, Sometimes when you try not to make a mistake,
it's like hitting a golf ball. If you see the lake, that's exactly where the ball's going.
You don't think that Squirrel White during that punt, the only thing going through his mind was, don't drop this ball, don't drop this ball, don't drop it. I guarantee you that's the only thing in his mind. Don't drop this ball, don't drop it. Catch the ball, catch the ball, catch the ball, catch the ball, right? Yeah. And it just tight, right? I mean, that is probably a microcosm of this whole stinking team. This game is, we got to win this game. We got to win this game. We got to do the things to win this game. We got to do the things to win this game. And you're pressing, and instead of just letting it come to you, just do what you do. Just do what you do and do it in, smooth, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That whole deal, right? It's just, no, man. Everything's tight. Everything's pressing. It's like golf. Golf same way.
Yeah.
Sitting over that putt, right?
Or you're hitting the ball to the green, and you see the lake, and you choke the club to where
Yeah.
You're gonna hit it. You're not gonna hit it well. All right. Hey, so the question is, who's available? Can we compete? Let me say this. Two things. One, I wrote a column recently that, coaching searches don't start and stop. They used to. Used to go out and hire a committee and all that kind of stuff. But to Mark's point, it all revolves around agents now. Sexton controls the deal, and there's some others, but Alford has to be in touch with Sexton, whether it's 2022, 2023, 2024. If your coach is winning, you've got to be involved with Sexton, because somebody's coming to get your coach. And if he's losing, you got to replace him. So you're always looking for the next guy. And so that there is no start and stop to searching. So that's been, I can promise you, Alford knows where he stands with every coach that he has an interest in. And, that coach is going to want certain things, and that'll include money for himself, his staff, and for his NIL budget. And if you don't have those three things, you're out of the picture. Now, 6 years ago, I have it on good authority, when we went out and looked, Mike Norvell has presented this to the Board of Trustees, so it's public record. We were in the bottom quartile of the ACC in money spent on football facilities, head coaching salaries, assistant salaries, football budget. We're in the bottom 4 of the ACC at that time. Well, during Alford's tenure, he's got Mike up there in the top 4. He's got, with these new assistants, they're in the top 4. The football budget's in the top 4. And we just moved into a $135 million football facility, not to mention what was built for the fans. So this job is an entirely better job than it was when we went searching 6 years ago. And I have it on good authority that when we did that 6 years ago, the top 8 guys on our list had no interest in the job because we were in the bottom quartile. We got interviews from Mark Stoops and James Franklin that year. We got an interview with Mike Norvell and Deion Sanders. And Franklin was only feathering his nest at Penn State. He wasn't really interested in this job, but that was the game they were playing. And the same was true for Stoops at Kentucky. So that was a very difficult time to get a head coach. I think Florida State is in a better position. To your point, can we compete? The question is, though, if you're in the SEC or the Big Ten, why would you leave? We're trying to get into one of those leagues. Why would a coach that's already successful there leave? So I'm asking myself, and I don't have the answer, who is available? And I would suspect if I were to start running names tonight, most of y'all would shrug them off. I don't know that there's a whole bunch of people out there that excite me or a fan base. I don't think the market for, home run coaches is very big, and there's 4 or 5 SEC and Big Ten schools. I got, what is it, like 4 of them right now with job openings. So I don't think this is a good year. I mean, can we compete? Yeah, but think about this. If you go get that guy, you're going to have to pay Mike, his assistants, about $60 million in buyout, and you've got all the costs of transition that I've been told to, use the number 10 million for cost of transition. So there's a lot to lose if you make a change, and I think that's part of the reason our administration would rather not do that. They like Mike, and they know what the cost of making a change is. And I haven't talked to Alford about this. He may already have his guy, but I don't know of a coach that would really excite our fans. I mean, there's a couple out there, but are they available to us? And these are the great questions that our administration's having to deal with tonight.
Well, you almost have to get lucky, right? Like Indiana, you have to find a Signetti or something like that, and that was the thought, hope, with Mike, I mean, we got a diamond in the rough, and in 2023, that's exactly what we thought, hey, we hit a home run with this guy because Alabama sure thought so. They came after him big time, right? I mean, Mike could have been Alabama's coach after 2023, so it's to your point, Jerry, it's you either got to get lucky with a young up and comer, or you got to go premium on a big name. And
yep.
with the market the way it is right now, that is tenuous. You're going to pay major premium on a big name.
Yeah, you see the numbers that they're throwing at these guys, and the Franklin at Virginia Tech got a long-term contract. The money they're offering Kiffin is a 10-year contract, guaranteed. I mean, God, can you imagine if you made the commitment to buy Mike out, and that's $8 to $10 million a year, and then your next guy fails? I mean, wow. I think we're in a tough situation right now. Here's an interesting comment. Tommy could be a serviceable back. No, I'm laughing at myself here. A serviceable backup or change of pace quarterback. There's no doubt about that now. He sure could. But I'm not sure that if he gets the extra year of eligibility and that's what we offered him, he would want to stay here. What's your thoughts there, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, college football right now, it's all about the quarterback.
100%.
It has been for several years now, but I mean,
NFL as well, right?
Well, it always has been. But I mean, there was a time when you could win with good running game and defense, and
Yeah.
you know, and you know, or do different kinds of offense. I mean, everybody runs the same stinking offense just about. Everybody runs the zone, RPO, you know, dress up, motion here, multiple, you know, I mean, everybody runs the same thing pretty much for the most part, and it's all about the quarterback. And it's is he the guy? You know, like I said, we get with him, we have to win a certain way, and if that way isn't working, there is no plan B.
That was my thought when you were talking about no plan B. Can there be a plan B with Tommy?
I mean,
when you get down 10, you got to go to plan B and it doesn't work, right?
I mean, we got in a 2-minute offense and, you know, threw a pick, right? I mean,
Right.
so,
I
I mean,
think
you
we
know,
beat that horse to death.
yeah,
He's such a great competitor. And the other thing about it is he's a leader. I mean, the players genuinely like that guy. He's got a lot of Jordan Travis in him. And I remember in 22 when Travis and Eric Verse and all those guys were going to go enter the draft early. We had a donor put up a bunch of money to get them to stay. And when Travis decided to stay, I think it impacted the decision of Verse and Johnny Wilson and Trey Benson, and they all came back together.
yeah.
I think Tommy, I'm probably dreaming, but I think if Deuce was going to come back, it was because of Tommy. They had that kind of a relationship, I feel like, you know? And so, that's that he seems to me to be that type of leader. Now that's a mouthful because Travis was really a great leader. I mean,
yeah.
And we're getting a lot of the same thoughts, that Tommy is what he is, and would another year help him develop? All right, what do we got here? I'm trying to read this one. It's not who's capable. Oh, we're talking about coaching. Yeah, who's available? Well, this is the second time we've been asked this question. Who is available, Mark? I mean, you got Jimbo out there. You got Franklin is now not available.
He's taken.
Taken.
You know, Lane supposedly going to make a decision between LSU and Florida. You know, I have no idea. I mean, I have no idea.
We have no idea, but Sammy Smith, who was the chaplain there for a number of years with Lane, thinks it's going to be tough to get him out of Oxford because, Sammy really liked Oxford and Lane really likes it. And his daughter's a sophomore in school there. His son's a sophomore high school quarterback. His mom and dad, Monty Kiffin and his mother moved to Oxford and they are now deceased, but they have a lot of history there in a short period of time. And apparently Lane's ex-wife and him, that she's moved back there, and there's some thought of he wants to stay there. Sammy's point, and it's a pretty good one. I mean, not a pretty good one, it's a darn good one, is if he goes to Florida, he's following Spurrier. He'll never be, the guy. If he goes to LSU, they got a string of former head coaches that are honored there. But at Ole Miss, he's got a chance to be a legacy there, to put his name on the field. And, I mean, Johnny Vaught was the only, big name coach, and that was back in the 60s. So Lane's got all the money he needs, and maybe he'll stay in Oxford just to be the guy, historically. I don't think that's such a bad thought, but TC did look to be at full speed tonight. I'm going to go through some of these questions we're getting, Mark.
Yeah.
Can't throw, can't grow. Yeah. a lot of it's what you're doing with your base. And I think if he could learn to manage his lower half, his upper half could maybe be better. But
we've been on an hour and a half, Jerry.
I know it, and we're not through the questions yet. I'm going to hang up here in just a minute. Let me blast through these last ones. I don't want anyone to be left hanging. He might even shrink if he keeps getting hammered. He will. I'm 2 inches shorter than I used to be. All right, 1 second, Mark, and then we're going to wrap it up. We need Mark on the recruiting trail for some elite offensive. It would be nice to see a dominant 5 up front.
How about Todd Fordham on the sideline wearing an NC State cap? Big Earl. I had a bunch of people over today. I told them,
the Earl story.
Yeah, Todd's nickname was Earl from Tifton, Georgia, right? We nicknamed him Earl because as a true freshman, he was in a team meeting, sitting like in the front row, and had drinking a bunch of Gatorade after a hard workout or something, and puked up a bunch of just puked right in the middle of the meeting room. And ever since then, his nickname was Earl.
I heard he politely tried to catch it in his T-shirt.
Right. Yeah. That's right. And so anybody at Florida State that knows Todd Fordham knows him as Earl. Anyways, yeah, that was a good offensive line, man. Todd Fordham. He was in the class after the Clay Shiver class, but that Forrest Conley, Clay Shiver, Juan Laureano, Patrick McNeil, those guys. That was
I thought he handled it really well, though. They questioned it, and he said, "Oh, I so love Coach Bowden and respect everything that Florida State University's done for me, but that guy out there's my son." I just want to see him play well tonight. See them play well. What they didn't say that I heard, and they were interviewing him after I couldn't listen anymore, was his youngest son is committed to us as a tight end, and I think he's a 4-star tight end. So, but boy, I'd sure love to have his oldest son as our in our linebacker core. He could help us. What is this? We are going to lose.
We're going to lose the whole line.
Yeah, and hopefully the guy throwing the ball. Yeah. It's going to be
popular guy in any football team is the backup quarterback.
Yeah. True. Willie, thank you for playing along. We appreciate your support, man. It's been a tough night, but golly, these questions keep coming. Thank you all. Replace Storms. We are a soft, weak team. Good question about Josh Storms. Hey, Mark, what would you think about us scheduling a time just to do this? Take calls. And Robert, this coach has got to go. This would be fun. What would you think we schedule something one day?
Yeah.
In the near future. All right, here.
Yeah, I've talked about this before, about getting more passing concepts. The inconsistency in the passing game, and I even have this in my notes, about continuity in the passing game. I think last week I talked about how, every offense I've ever been involved in, you had packages of offense, right? You had your shallow crosses, you had your, this series, that series of stuff, and stuff that complemented other things. You set things up with certain packages, and if somebody showed you certain looks, and you had things to counter within those concepts and stuff, right? So it doesn't seem like we have that kind of thing in our passing game, but I think a lot of that has to do with, again, that Tommy is not a pocket passer. The intermediate accuracy of guys moving away from him and crossing routes, those are tough throws. Running backs doing these flare routes and leading them just right. guys crossing the line of scrimmage. You know, you got to hit a certain window. If it's zoned and if it's man, you got to lead them just enough. I mean, those are tough things that require a lot of repetition, a lot of practice, a lot of technique in your throwing and how you set your feet, how you look people off with your eyes. I mean, there's a lot to it, and you know, it takes a little bit of talent and development. Now, we've had Tommy 1 year, and he's brought in all the habits that he's had under Bill O'Brien, which I'm sure, you know, he tried to do some of that stuff with him, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
You know, and where he was, you know, before that with the other coach that was there, I forget his name. Anyways,
Yeah.
so he's come in with all that stuff already to another offensive coordinator, his third offensive coordinator, and it's, you know, in 6 months it's hard to put something together, you know, and you know, fit a square peg in a round hole, basically, is what you got with that. So the lack of continuity in the passing game, it's a problem, no question. Is it something we should have been working on with him from the very get-go? Maybe they tried. You know, there are some that, you know, I've seen him try to throw some of that stuff, and it doesn't come off real well a lot of times. He's about 50-50 on those kinds of throws. Throws going away from him. He throws a good deep ball. He puts it in good spots. He can throw the out. He threw those corner routes. You know, all the stuff to the sideline. He throws pretty good. But he throws in the middle of the field, or if guys running away from him, they're not always great throws. He's about 50-50 on those balls, and that's probably why we don't do as much.
Yeah, and the first pick he had was on a crossing route, you know, and he overthrew it, right?
Yeah. He jumped up in the air. I mean, he was jumping up in the air throwing that ball. That's crazy.
He's trying to do it Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
So this is a good question. I would tell you, Willie, that could FSU have the best of the best if they are available? Could they put a package to do that? I think this administration has shown their willingness to fight the ACC in court. They're not afraid of competing. But, you know, you got to remember, to put a package together for the next, you got to buy out the one you got. And so
you know, part of that is what is the wisdom in doing that? If you got to be really sure. I mean, it has to be like a Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, Lane Kiffin, Jimbo. I don't think anybody wants Jimbo back. You know, that I think that would be. I don't know if that'd be a great idea. For Jimbo's sake and our sake, honestly. You know.
I think I'd like to see Jimbo get back into coaching. I mean, I worked, you know, around him, with him, and it was often contentious. But I have respect for Jimbo. I mean,
I like Jimbo. Jimbo's always been great to me. You know.
Yeah, he's a brilliant mind. But, you know, is he the right fit here? Mark talks about fit, and you know, I don't know. He lives here in town. I think he has a knowledge of Florida State. I think, you know, I'm a big guy. I believe in give a guy a second chance kind of thing. And maybe it'd be the fit. Maybe it would work out great. But, yeah, I mean, Sexton is going to market him and get him in the right place. And money won't be an object with Jimbo. So I think that's your point is in terms of money, Jimbo could be a candidate. All right. I can't read that. FSU's heading to Gainesville in the same exact spot year 6 as year 2, 5 and 6, relying on transfer portal players to win. You're exactly right. And we won that year. Wound up in Shreveport. Gosh, they keep coming, Mark. I'm sorry. You're probably getting sleepy. Only a difference in year 2, there was hope of building towards something. Year 6, what are we building towards? What do you think, Mark? I would say.
So we built, you know, year 4. We built it up through year 4. and that was an unusual thing. Things have changed since 2023, right? The NIL, the transfer portal, the rules are a little different than they were back then. We had a leg up because we were kind of ahead of the game, able to get the Jared Verse and some of these guys before our scouting was a little more advanced. It seemed like we had a better handle on. We were kind of ahead of the game. I remember thinking at the time we were a little ahead of the game, and Mike did a really good job of taking advantage of the rules the way they were set now back then. And we were able to get the players that we got in 2022 and have those years in 22 and 23. But then they all went away, and the rules are a little bit different now. We talk about the revenue sharing and where the money comes from, and how much money we have and had and don't have now. And so as when those players left, and then we had that 2024 portal class was a total bust. Obviously, the quarterback and everything. It just wasn't good. And it just, obviously there were some coaching issues and the coaching changes. So, this is the first year of pretty much a brand new coaching staff. I think now with revenue sharing, the money's going to be a little bit different, right, Jerry? I mean, you can speak to this more than I can. The rules are a little bit different now in terms of that. Things have settled in terms of, who has the power in the recruiting and the agents and all that stuff. The landscape is a little more settled. It's not as hectic. So, hey, if we move from 2 wins to hopefully 6, it's an improvement. Maybe to help, with the revenue sharing and the money being maybe a little better, we can compete maybe a little better than maybe we have in the last couple of years and get a better roster in here. Look, Mike's no dummy. I think, you go out and get somebody else. That's the easy thing to do for sure. The easy thing to do is just say, you know what, let's spend the money and, just blow $100 million, we'll pay this staff. You already said is what, 60, number 60 to get rid of this staff. And then we'll have to bring somebody else in. Franklin signed for 40, right? At Virginia Tech, I think I saw 41. So, it's one of those things that there's no guarantee, I guess is my point. There's no guarantee that you make a change that you're going to be any better.
Yeah.
And I think Mike is a smart guy. I like everything about him other than, what we've been able to do in terms of bringing the players that we need to bring in. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And not all of it is on Mike, honestly.
So I want to end on a positive note. Last one. Oh, that's not it. Sorry. There was one about the elite dynasty, that Florida State is an elite dynasty program.
Yeah.
And I think, it doesn't feel like it right now. But Charlie Barnes wrote a column in the Osceola this week that was pretty interesting about when they put I-10 through, and you had 2 roads running parallel west. One was I-10, and one was the old road, Highway 90. And how we drove that road west to the Sugar Bowl, which we had never played in, and then to the Fiesta Bowl for the national championship, and then out to Pasadena, for the national championship. And, now we're back on Highway 90, looking for the on-ramp back onto the superhighway. And when we were winning those championships, it was boring. To me, we got complacent. We got spoiled as a fan base. And but boy, we long to be back there. It's like 40 years in the desert, right? It's been 10 years since we were there. And anyway, I thought it was kind of a good column. I mean, Mark, you remember when we were killing people?
I remember Billy Sexton. I think we were warming up for a game in Doak, and he looks at me. He says, He goes, I was just getting started out coaching. I was a graduate assistant. He looks at me. He goes, "You're just getting started." He goes, you know, all you know is what it's like to come out on the field and know you're going to win." He said, "Don't take that for granted." He said, "It's not like that everywhere." And I remember him saying something along those lines to me about that. And I was just kind of like, "Oh, okay, Billy," whatever. And it was all I ever knew. You knew you were going to win. You knew you had better players. You knew you were a better team. You were going to win. And we did take it for granted. I took it for granted for sure.
You got to South Carolina and you found out what the real world was.
That's exactly right. And that's one of the reasons why I got out. If I couldn't coach, all I knew was Coach Bowden and these coaches. The coaches that I grew up with.
Right.
And that's all. When I, in my mind, that was coaching. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be that. And when I left, and I realized that it's not like this everywhere. It's different. It was a different experience, and it was fun. I liked it, but I was like, if I couldn't coach with Coach Bowden, I don't want to coach for some random dude, some yahoo. And so I was like, you know what? I got an opportunity to do something. I'm going to do something else. And that was why, because only place I wanted to be was at Florida State after I had left. So, it's interesting. We are where we are now because Florida State is still Florida State to me, for sure. And I know it's to every one of you. And we'll get back there again. These things go in cycles. We've never been in this cycle before. So it's painful for sure.
Oh, I've been in it. We lost to Florida 10 straight years up until 77.
Yeah.
And I've been through this cycle.
Yeah.
And so
it'll cycle back. It's easy to sit back and look at it from the outside and not know everything and say it's easy to do this, easy to do that. But I also know that Mike Alford's a smart guy.
Right.
Mike Norvell's a smart guy. Peter Collins is a smart guy.
Yeah. They all want to win.
They all want to win. And we know what we have in Florida State. It's how can we leverage the legacy that this place is and the potential. Because here's one thing that all these coaches out there know, that when Florida State is right, they win national championships. Not every program can say that, right?
100%.
Virginia Tech can't say that. Really, I mean, not a lot of programs.
Most programs can't.
Most programs can't. No. But when Florida State is right, they win championships as early as late as 2013, and really 2023 was the championship year, right? Sure. And so it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long to get it right. No. I mean, we'll get back there. I'm confident we'll get back there at some point. But it's going to be incremental. That's the thing. It's probably going to be incremental, just because we're not in the Big Ten, we're not in the SEC. It's going to take a little bit of cleverness, right? A little bit of planning, and a little bit of luck too, because the next guy we're going to have to hit on, and it's probably not going to be a big name. It would probably if there is a next guy, know.
Yeah, the jury is not. I mean, it is. The jury is out for some people about Mike. I mean, and nobody's going to change their mind. But I think for the administration, all things considered, I don't know that the jury is out. You know what I mean? I think it's a really difficult question on how to do it if they're going to do it. So let's leave it at that for tonight. But we next Saturday we got Florida, and we'll do this again after that. Hopefully we'll be talking about something better than tonight. Mark, you want to take us out?
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Go Noles.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And I want to thank you personally for everything that you all do for us, for taking the interest in reading our material and to listening to this podcast. Your support, both financially and emotionally, is really important because, when Florida State's doing it right, this is a lot of fun. But when we're struggling, like the program is right now, this takes a toll on all of us who cover this program. So thank you for everything you do for Florida State and for Osceola.
See you guys.